The next day, Gokhan smokes outside Barisistan while Baris makes a phone call inside. After a while, Baris leaves Barisistan, walks towards Gokhan, and says, "We've got a problem," before entering Barisistan again. Gokhan assumes it must have something to do with the drug deal. Feeling anxious and upset, he throws his cigarette into the trash and enters Barisistan to discuss the situation. Baris explains that the guys they sent cocaine to didn't like its quality and demands another package. Puzzled, Gokhan asks, "How can they ask for another package if they didn't like the cocaine we sent? They get a bit too high or something?" Baris tries to make it more clear by stating that they want another package as compensation, not as a new deal. Gokhan wonders why they didn't like the cocaine and asks Baris, "Did you mix it up with something else?" Baris claims that it's a standard procedure. Gokhan, not knowing if Baris is lying or not, hits the counter slowly out of frustration and asks, "Damn it. Then why don't they like it?" Baris says, "Look, we don't even have time to think about that right now. If we don't give them another package soon, what do you think will happen? In the best case scenario, there won't be any more deals. I won't even mention the worst case scenario." After thinking for a while, Gokhan doesn't like his answer and bashes him smoothly by saying, "Have you ever thought about what would happen if they don't like the new package too? Let me guess, you'll suggest sending another package? Right?" Baris snubs him too. "Do you enjoy pretending like you have options? Or do you have another plan that I don't know about? Tell me which one it is." And Gokhan tries to explain why he doesn't enjoy the idea of giving a free package. "What I'm trying to say is, if we give in to their demands, they will never respect us again, and because they will see us as weak and they will continue to make demands. You may want to give them an inch, but that won't stop them from taking a mile." Baris tries to convince Gokhan to send another package, but Gokhan refuses to comply. Then he mildly threatens him by stating that if he couldn't find a different way, he would send the package regardless of his opinion. Then he leaves. And this makes him feel that he got just another time bomb in his lab. Which he wasn't expecting either. At the campus, Duygu once again approaches Selçuk for help in finding the blackmailer who's targeting İlker. She provides more details, saying, "And then, just as İlker was about to catch the blackmailer, a ginger kid got in the way. Look, if we find that kid, we might catch the blackmailer too. Do you understand?" But Selçuk angrily dismisses her, stating, "What have I told you before? Listen, you're not going to involve me in this. I have more important things to do than deal with some psycho blackmailer. Got it? Plus, why do you trust this guy so much?" Duygu replies. Suddenly, a secret blackmailer appears and asks for only 100 lira a week. "If you wanted to lie, would you make this up?" And he says, "Whatever, I'm leaving now." As Selçuk tries to walk away, Duygu grabs him by the arm and says, "Do you know what will happen if we can't find the blackmailer and this continues to drag on? Ever think about it?" Selçuk asks, "What?" and Duygu explains her point. "If we can't catch the blackmailer, we won't be able to get İlker on our side, which means I won't be able to execute my plan to get Gokhan expelled from school through İlker. Okay?" After a moment of silence, Selçuk looks tempted and curiously asks, "Well, how are we going to do this then?" She says, "As I said, there's a ginger kid in class 10C. He could be the one helping the blackmailer. First, I'll talk to him. And then, when the blackmailer calls İlker, we'll do this." And Duygu outlines the details of her plan. Meanwhile, Gokhan and İlker are talking on the campus. İlker expresses how he loves Duygu and how she seems interested in him because she wants to catch the blackmailer too. But after hearing İlker's story about his encounter with Duygu in the restaurant, Gokhan abruptly says, No. She is not in love with you. She just wants to use you." Hearing this, İlker immediately feels offended and mockingly replies, "Yeah, sure. According to you, she was supposed to sleep with Mr. Oktay too." Referring to Gokhan's previous false assumption. Gokhan says, "Believe whatever you want. I've just warned you. Just then, the blackmailer calls Ilker. He moves away from Gokhan and answers his phone. This time, the blackmailer wants him to leave the money at the entrance across from the old building. The blackmailer hangs up. Ilker makes a face and tries to approach Duygu and Selçuk. Duygu reads Ilker's expression and realizes that the blackmailer has just called him. She signals Ilker to stop. She says, "Stop. Stop. Leave the phone there. It could be bugged." Ilker struggles to decide where to place his phone for a while. Eventually, he decides to give his phone to Gokhan temporarily and then joins Duygu and Selçuk. Ilker informs them, "He just asked me to leave it near the old building." Annoyed by the new development, Selçuk loses his temper. Come on. Did he really have to call on the exact day that Yagmur returned to school, seriously? Duygu first calms Selçuk down and then lays out the plan. "Ilker, get ready quickly, okay? Selçuk will spy on the area from afar, and I'll look for the ginger kid. Got it?" Selçuk says, "I'm going to talk to our guys," and leaves. Duygu turns to Ilker and says, "Let's start." As they walk around the school, Duygu spots the ginger kid and secretly takes a photo of him from a distance. While heading towards the old building, Ilker receives a message on his phone. Duygu has sent him a picture of Jiri to confirm if he was the guy in the hospital or not. However, Ilker couldn't recognize him due to several reasons. Firstly, his state of panic and timid nature prevent him from fully trusting his judgment. Secondly, the ginger kid apparently had a recent haircut. Thirdly, the photo Duygu sent is very blurry, further hindering Ilker's recognition. Ilker replies, saying, "No, this wasn't him," and continues walking. Meanwhile, Selçuk and a few of his friends are spying on the area around the building through binoculars from a distance, hoping they could spot the blackmailer. Ilker leaves the 100 lira in the envelope at the entrance of the old building and walks away. Duygu waits on a bench on campus, eager to hear the news. Eventually, Selçuk and Ilker approach her, and Selçuk angrily says, "The guy didn't even show up. Damn it." Duygu can't believe what she just heard and asks, "Come on, you can't be serious. How could he not show up?" Disappointed, she covers her face with her hands. Frustrated, Ilker seeks guidance. "We've waited for like an hour, but nobody ever passed by. What are we going to do now? Should I confess to the committee? What do you think, guys?" Duygu walks away without explanation. Ilker feels deeply saddened by her abrupt departure but also feels hopeless. Selçuk offers advice, "You know what I think you should do?" Ilker feels a glimmer of hope and seeks guidance again, but instead, Selçuk says, "Shit out of your luck." Then he leaves too, leaving Ilker feeling even more hopeless, angry, and frustrated. While Yagmur's electronic shop is being renovated, Yagmur and Kagla stand near the shop. Yagmur complains to Kagla about how Ada could still be there after ruining the shop. Instead of answering, Kagla asks, "First of all, answer the question. Did Ada push you into that hole?" After a moment of hesitation, Yagmur decides to tell the truth. "No, she didn't push me, but she didn't try to rescue me either." Kagla is frustrated with the answer. She had really wanted Yagmur to accuse Ada of pushing her into the hole. However, it seems like Yagmur genuinely believes that Ada is the one who ruined the shop. After a brief silence, Kagla says they can't expel Ada from the school unless she confesses because they have no evidence yet. Unsatisfied with the answer, Yagmur says, "But that's ridiculous. Why would she confess to her crime?" Kagla confidently replies, "How do you know she won't? Let's give it a try," and she starts walking towards Ada. Yagmur follows her, and they meet Ada. Ada feels scared in Kagla's presence, fearing she could be abused again. Ada smoothly and compassionately says to Yagmur, "Oh, Yagmur, you're back. That's great news," hoping to reconcile with her. But Yagmur gets straight to the point. Ada, look, I will only ask you one thing. Okay? You ruined my shop that night because you were angry at me? Right? While Ada is thinking about how to respond, Kagla unexpectedly intervenes. You know what Yagmur also told me, Ada? Seems like you actually didn't push her into the hole that night. Whereas she could have easily accused you of it if she really wanted, but she chose to tell the truth. And now? It's your turn to do the right thing, Ada. Yes. We're listening to you. Then Kagla puts her arms around Yagmur and Ada's necks. Ada senses the implied threat, as she was previously forced to assume all the blame when she was in Kagla's room. Feeling out of options, Ada unwillingly decides to accept the crime she didn't commit. Yagmur, yes, I did it, but I regret it so badly now. Okay? I wasn't myself that day. I had just thought that you were mocking me. I'm so sorry. Then she tries to make things more emotional to reduce the punishment she is about to receive. Can you empathize with what it means to not have one of your hands and to try to live under curious stares? Can you, Yagmur? Hearing this, Yagmur feels emotional and asks Kagla to drop the charges against Ada. But Kagla reminds her that it's impossible because Ada just confessed to her crime. Then Yagmur tells Kagla that she will do everything to reduce Ada's reparation to the minimum, claiming that her father has a lawyer for this. This time, Kagla feels out of options and accepts it. Ada feels delighted and blissful after Yagmur's favor, and she leaves too. On the next day, Yagmur is arranging the items in her shop. After a while, Selçuk enters and turns the open sign on the door to closed. He asks, "What's going on here?" Yagmur excitedly replies, "Selçuk. Where have you been?" He joyfully responds, "Did you really miss me that much?" And she shyly says, Yeah. He continues, "May I help you with arranging the stuff then?" She says, No, don't bother. It's okay." Selçuk asks suspiciously, "Bother? Seriously?" Then he holds her chair for a while and adds, "Come on, are you going to keep me waiting like that all day?" Implying that she should continue to rest rather than working. Jaeger understands what he meant but still prefers to ask regardless, "What do you mean?" Selçuk makes it clear, "Did you think I would allow you to arrange everything here while you just got out of the hospital?" Then lightly taps the chair twice. Yagmur freezes for a while, not knowing what to say. Selçuk half-jokingly adds, "I might change my mind, you know." Yagmur excitedly and shyly says, "Selçuk. You are wonderful." Then she sits on the chair. Within several minutes, Selçuk arranges in the shop and feels mildly tired. And says, "We've worked quite hard. I think we deserve a nice meal, don't you think?" Hearing this, Yagmur feels mildly embarrassed and tries to change the subject, but "I thought I was the one making the jokes here." He replies, "Of course, you are. You think I was joking or something?" And this time, Yagmur feels more embarrassed and shy because she doesn't think that she deserved this kind of favor. Yagmur adds, "Selçuk, I'm starting to feel embarrassed. Besides, what will I tell my dad if he sees us?" Selçuk jokingly adds, "So what? He won't think it's the first time you're eating out, right?" After that, they decide to have dinner at Selçuk's restaurant. While Yagmur is eating pizza, Selçuk is drinking whiskey. He casually asks, "Do you mind if I smoke?" And she replies with the same manner, "Go ahead, but quietly please." Despite initially not understanding her joke, he later laughs, "Your jokes are killing me." Then he starts smoking. He asks, "So, Ada finally admitted that she was the one that ruined your shop, right?" She replies, "Yeah, as I said, we talked to her just now and she said she'll pay for some of the damages." Hearing this, Selçuk coughs. Yagmur half-jokingly says, "Selçuk? I thought people usually don't choke on anything while smoking, but Selçuk drinks his whiskey and then places his glass in the middle of the table, arguing that she should have paid the full damage. Yagmur says that she is satisfied with her decisions and reconciles with Ada. As the conversation continues, Selçuk starts getting drunk. Unconsciously, he says, "I also have something to tell you." Yagmur asks, and he continues, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that, as he almost confesses that it was actually him who ruined her shop accidentally, Kagla suddenly comes to their table and unapologetically asks, "How are you doing here?" Looking at the whiskey glass, she also adds, "Oh. Are you using alcohol here? Didn't anyone tell you that you shouldn't drink while pregnant?" Puzzled, Yagmur replies, "What? I'm not pregnant." Kagla takes the whiskey glass, fearing that it could cause Selçuk to admit his partnership with her. Then she adds, "But it could cause that, right?" and laughs. Kagla looks at Selçuk and says, "Come with me." She walks away with the whiskey glass in her hand. Later, Selçuk joins her. Annoyed, she complains, "Couldn't you find someone else to fall in love with in this school, right? Look, if I find out you said something very wrong while drunk, even if your father came from America, he couldn't save you from me. Got it?" Selçuk doesn't take her seriously and demands his glass back. He also wants her to leave. Kagla becomes angry after hearing his response and spills the whiskey between Selçuk's legs. Everyone around watches the events in shock. Then Kagla leaves. After Ada managed to reduce her reparation thanks to Yagmur, she goes to Gokhan's dorm room to discuss the new situation. Hearing this, Gokhan experiences another breakdown because now he not only needs to find money for his treatment and his aunt's caregiver, but he also needs money to help Ada. Plus, considering his disagreements with Baris in the drug business, he starts feeling hopeless for one of the first times. Seeing this, Ada shares a similar sense of hopelessness but tries to act optimistically in order to motivate Gokhan. However, this doesn't work because Gokhan kicks his desk in anger instead. He then sits down and covers his face with his hands. After a moment of silence, Gokhan confesses, "The gang. They didn't like the cocaine we sent, so they're asking for more as a penalty. But the problem is, if we do it, we'll look like losers in their eyes. It would just make them demand more. And if we don't do it, there will be big trouble." Puzzled by the new development, Ada asks, "What will happen then?" Gokhan says that after finding a solution, he will leave the business because it's too dangerous to bear. Then he starts looking out the window, saying that now only a miracle could save them. He urgently needs money in order to get treatment for Ebola. But how could he find the money if he leaves the drug business? The problem occupies his mind for a while. Later, Gokhan suddenly looks at Duygu and excitedly turns to Ada. And he very excitedly says, "Student leadership. Yes. How come I didn't think of that before? They are the highest paid students and they have insurance, Ada. All I need is to be elected as student leader next month." They excitedly hug each other for a while, but then Ada stops sharing the same enthusiasm. After Gokhan asks, Ada explains why she is concerned. "How is this going to happen, Gokhan? How will you beat Duygu in the election? It's impossible. She's like a fox. Because unlike you, I know her from the previous year. Besides, you need popularity for this, you need to have connections, you need to show yourself, you need to make promises, and the election is only a few weeks away. How is all this going to happen?" But Gokhan makes it clear, "We won't know until I try." Then he begins to search for a pen and a sheet of A4 paper in order to write the petition to run for student leadership. After 3 days, Duygu sits alone at a table in the dining hall, making a disgusted face as she tries the soup. She covers her ears with her hands, irritated by the loud conversations happening at the other tables. Eventually, other students join her table and start talking loudly, prompting the annoyed Duygu to move to another table. However, Ilker appears and stands over her. She rudely asks, "Do you always come in quietly like this?" Ilker replies, "Oh, really?" Then he sits down across from her. Duygu becomes irritated by his presence because he had sat down without her permission. But she is still determined to find the blackmailer regardless. Duygu asks, "Who could the blackmailer be?" He replies, "If I knew, don't you think I would tell you?" Duygu doesn't reply, but it's easy to see that she didn't like his answer. Ilker confesses, "Please. Don't worry because we haven't found him yet, okay? I'm going to confess everything soon in the council." Hearing this, Duygu starts coughing and feeling frustrated with his decision, because she was planning to find the blackmailer personally and use it as a propaganda tool in the upcoming student leader election. But Ilker wrongfully assumes that this will make her happier. And he asks, "By the way, how about we go grab something to drink after school?" Hearing this, Duygu freezes for a while, not knowing how to respond. And the loud conversations of the students start to irritate her more. Then he receives a message from Selçuk: Gokhan has become a candidate. She becomes shocked upon learning this, which causes her to stay frozen longer. Ilker curiously asks, "Duygu? You okay?" Later on, a small fight breaks out in the cafeteria. Feeling like she's going insane, she screams at the top of her voice. Everybody starts curiously looking at her. She throws her tray on the ground, starts crying, and quickly leaves the dining hall. And they start staring at Ilker. Ilker disappointedly leaves the dining hall, not understanding why she acted so rudely to him. He starts to realize that she doesn't like him, which deeply saddens him. Duygu actually didn't purposefully seek to embarrass him, but the other factors drove her insane, and Ilker wrongfully assumed that she deliberately did this to embarrass him. Later on, he approaches Gokhan on the campus and says, "You were right. She doesn't like me at all." Gokhan becomes glad to hear this. He replies, "Well, wasn't it obvious? Luckily, you realized it before it was too late." But then Ilker's indecisive nature kicks in. But I loved her so much, Gokhan. Actually, I still love her, to be honest. He sits down and continues, "It's eating me up inside, man." Gokhan sits next to Ilker and says, "You know what I think? You should take a break from her and focus on yourself." "What about the blackmailer?" Ilker replies, "I will tell the council that I was the one who gave you the numbers. Hence, he will have nothing to blackmail me anymore." Gokhan says, "Cool," and continues, "And then what? I mean, what will you do next?" Ilker says, "I'm going to continue to Texas, of course." Gokhan curiously asks, "Texas? Are you talking about that woman?" Ilker laughs for a while and replies, "No, I'm talking about poker." Gokhan curiously asks for details. "Oh, wait a second. Did you participate in tournaments? So, what happened? Tell me about it." Ilker proudly says, "There's nothing to tell. I won, and I will continue to do so." Gokhan says, "But what you're doing is very dangerous, man. I mean, you can't just keep doing this, right? Sooner or later, they will start to think that you cheated, and they will start to cause trouble. I think you're playing with fire." Ilker jokingly replies, If my memory serves me correctly, you were the one who asked me to participate in tournaments, weren't you?" Later that night, he continues to play poker to fill the void inside him after giving up Duygu and resolving the blackmailer issue. He starts to win again thanks to his hyperthymesia. However, this time, some of the players start to grumble, openly accusing him of cheating, indicating that they most likely won't tolerate this any longer. But the euphoria of winning becomes so powerful that blinds him and makes him continue regardless. Gokhan and Baris are in Berizistan. Gokhan asks, "Have you ever promised to send them another package?" Baris casually replies, Yeah. I mean, what else could I say?" Gokhan excitedly says, "Listen, I think I have a plan." What if? But Baris interrupts him, thanks, but no thanks because I need to deliver it right now. Gokhan is disappointed with Baris' determination and says, can't you at least listen to me once? Look, here's my idea. If you don't like it, I won't say another word. Okay? Hearing this, Baris allows him to continue. Gokhan says, now, here's the plan. I'm going to make a deal with them and tell them that our guy Baris did his own thing. So, we actually didn't promise a new package or anything. There must have been a misunderstanding. This way, we won't look like losers. How does that sound? Baris realizes, so, are you going to act like my boss or something? Gokhan snaps his fingers and continues, exactly. I'll even hire a few bodyguards. They will totally buy it. Baris asks, but what about me? Gokhan answers, like I said, for now, you need to stay out of sight. You need to look like you've been punished a bit, you understand? That will be our cover story. Baris continues to ask, what about later then? And Gokhan continues to answer, once we're done with these guys, you'll be free again. Baris complains, but Gokhan, I've worked my ass off to have a deal with these guys. How am I supposed to find new guys, after the deal is done? Gokhan replies, well. What's the point of having a middleman then? If he knows how to take money, he must know how to do his job too, right? After a moment of silence, Baris agrees, all right, let's do it then. But on one condition, Gokhan asks about his condition. Baris holds 2 cocaine packages he took from the shelves and instructs Gokhan to sell them too, to which Gokhan reluctantly agrees. Gokhan gets into Baris's car and leaves the campus. Watching this, Duygu turns to Selçuk and anxiously asks, your buddies are going to fully support me, right? But Selçuk teases, did you really panic just because Gokhan became a candidate? Come on, you can't be serious. Duygu continues anxiously, so, the answer is no? And Selçuk continues to tease, you know what you're reminding me of? Those types who cry after getting a 95 on exams, you know them? The crybabies? Duygu impulsively and angrily replies, I'm one of them, idiot. After a moment of silence, Duygu continues, by the way. Weren't you going to talk to Ada? You were going to ask her if she helped Gokhan with the LSD stuff? Remember? He says, oh, I forgot about that. They walk into the forest, intending to talk with Ada to discuss. Then Duygu sees a big hole in the forest. This is the hole that Gokhan almost fell into several weeks ago. Duygu freezes for a while. Selçuk jokingly says, what? Did you forget to turn off the oven or something? Duygu goes next to the hole. Selçuk mockingly says, hey, Yagmur isn't there anymore. Come on, Duygu. But she shows her typical habit of taking everything too seriously and shouts, this is not the same hole. This is not the same hole. Selçuk comes next to Duygu and says, so what? But Duygu doesn't answer. He replies, come on, will you be looking at a hole all day, then walks away. Duygu notices that Selçuk is about to set foot on suspicious-looking ground. Duygu shouts, stop. Stop, and then goes next to him, warning him that he is probably about to fall into another hidden hole. Selçuk finds the idea ridiculous, but Duygu says that there must be more hidden holes because it doesn't make sense to have only 2. Hearing Duygu's argument, he starts to believe her but is still not fully convinced about the other holes. Duygu picks up a stick and starts poking around the ground slowly. She then pushes some bushes down, revealing another hidden hole. Selçuk is surprised by the discovery and covers his mouth with his hands for a moment. Duygu puts 2 and 2 together and makes the conclusion, Ada must have known about these holes. That's why she never fell despite living in the forest. And Kagla always warned us not to move around this area. Selçuk asks why these exist then. Duygu claims that Ada knows the reason, and they can learn from it. They carefully move into the forest and meet Ada in front of her tent. Duygu asks her to tell the truth about the holes, but Ada sees no reason to give such information to them. Duygu says, "Look, I can still learn the reason for the holes from Kagla too if I want, even if you don't tell us. But if you tell me the truth, maybe we can reconcile, and I can make your life easier. Do you understand?" Ada buys Duygu's bluff, feeling that she is out of options, and tells everything about the holes. Ada confesses that she made Baris dig the holes to protect herself in the forest from the dangers. But Selçuk doesn't believe her and verbally abuses her for a while. Ada starts crying and swearing, which prompts Duygu to believe her. Later on, Duygu sits on a bench in the campus and thinks about her next move. Her right hand trembles. She fears that she could lose the upcoming elections because she failed to find Ilker's blackmailer and use it as a propaganda tool. Plus, the scandal she made in the dining hall will probably negatively affect her. Also, she still hasn't gotten revenge on Ada after she constantly insulted her several days ago. On top of that, she finds a plan on how to turn the tables. And she reaches for her phone. Several hours later, at the podium in the schoolyard, Duygu speaks into the microphone, addressing the students. How many more people need to end up in the hospital just because someone with a sick mind and paranoia wanted it that way in our school? Do we really deserve this as a school community? Are we really going to allow her to send us into pits? If I can't protect you and safeguard your rights, then why am I even here? Among the crowd, dialogues like, "Yeah, Duygu is right, this is not right, she's telling the truth," can be heard. And Duygu continues, "I don't know about you, but I want to put an end to this nonsense." Just then, a dump truck carrying sand begins to approach the campus square. Meanwhile, Ada is watering the mushrooms in her garden in the forest, then goes back to her tent and picks up her gun. She heads towards the pond and waits for a while before throwing the gun into the water. Because she realized that killing the man only worsened everything for her. Soon after, she hears the footsteps of a crowd approaching her and begins to feel tense. Duygu and a group of students carrying shovels arrive in the area where Ada is. Ada and Duygu look at each other for a while, then the students begin to fill in a pit. Ada becomes increasingly tense and starts clenching her fists and grinding her teeth. Duygu also grabs a shovel and helps to fill in the pit. She grins because she has achieved a propaganda victory before the upcoming election, which makes Ada even more uneasy. Ada feels defeated and compelled to tell the locations of the other holes. The more she saddens, the more empowered Duygu feels, and now it looks like Duygu has totally turned the tables. She not only blocked Gokhan's dream to be the next student leader, but she also got her revenge against Ada. Plus, saving Selçuk from falling into the hole will probably further help her to solidify her position in the school considering his connections. There were some serious cracks between the siblings previously, but now the situation has definitely improved. Seems like things won't be easy for Gokhan. And here is where the 4th episode ends.